It was a crisp autumn evening, the kind where the leaves danced in the twilight and the air was thick with the scent of decay and decay. Emily sat in the driver's seat of her sleek, black SUV, parked on a deserted stretch of road that wound through the outskirts of her small town. The streetlights flickered ominously, casting erratic shadows that seemed to come alive with every passing second. The radio played softly in the background, an eerie contrast to the silence of the night. Emily had always been a fan of urban legends, drawn to their dark allure and the thrill of the unknown. She'd spent countless nights researching the ghastly tales of the Hookman, a local legend with roots deeply embedded in the annals of American horror. According to the story, a couple had once been parked in a secluded spot when they heard a news report about an escaped convict with a hook for a hand. Terrified, they fled, only to discover a gruesome surprise when they got home. Tonight, Emily was not just a casual observer. She was on a mission. Her friends, a group of self-proclaimed paranormal enthusiasts, had dared her to spend the night at the site of the legend's most infamous killing spree. Their challenge was simple: stay in the car, alone, for 3 hours. In return, they promised to share her story with a larger audience, turning her into an overnight sensation. The clock ticked steadily, each second amplifying the oppressive quiet that enveloped her. The only sounds were the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant, mournful cry of a night owl. Emily's phone buzzed on the dashboard. A message from her friend Mark. "Are you still there? Everything okay?" She typed back quickly. "Yeah, still here, just a bit unnerved, it's so quiet." No sooner had she sent the message than the radio crackled with static, a burst of white noise that made her jump. She fumbled with the knobs, trying to regain control of the broadcast, but the static persisted, then cut off abruptly. Emily's heart pounded. She glanced at the clock, 11:45 p.m., just over an hour to go. The darkness seemed thicker now, the trees casting twisted, monstrous shapes in the moonlight. She could feel the weight of the legend pressing down on her, the anxiety palpable. Minutes turned into an hour, and just as Emily began to feel the edges of her fear dull, a new sound pierced the silence. A tapping noise, rhythmic and deliberate, coming from the back of her SUV. Emily froze, her breath catching in her throat. The tapping was faint but distinct, as if someone or something was trying to get her attention. Her mind raced through the possibilities. It would be a prank, one of her friends trying to scare her, or perhaps a stray animal, though it sounded too purposeful for that. Summoning her courage, she turned around to look out the rear window. The blackness outside was impenetrable, but the tapping persisted. Emily tried to convince herself it was just her imagination, but the noise grew louder, more insistent. Suddenly, she saw something that made her blood run cold. A shadowy figure appeared at the edge of her rear-view mirror, a silhouette with a metallic gleam. The figure was holding something that glinted in the moonlight. Her heart raced as she realized it was a hook, just like the one described in the legend. Panic surged through her. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed Mark's number. "Mark, someone's outside the car," she said, her voice trembling. "Emily, calm down." Mark's voice crackled through the phone. "It's probably just someone messing with you. Just stay inside and lock the doors." But the tapping grew louder, more frantic. Emily's hands were shaking as she looked around the car, searching for any sign of the intruder. Her phone buzzed with another message from Mark. "Whatever you do, don't get out of the car." Loud bangs shook the vehicle, and Emily screamed, clutching the steering wheel. Her breath was coming in short, shallow gasps. The tapping stopped, replaced by a heavy silence. Emily peered through the darkened windows, but the figure had vanished. She wanted to believe it was a prank. Deep down, she knew something was terribly wrong. The air felt colder, darkness thicker. Emily glanced at the clock again. 12:30 a.m. Just 30 minutes left. She tried to keep her focus, to remain rational. The fear gnawing at her was overwhelming. Suddenly, her phone rang, and she jumped. It was a video call from Mark. She answered it, face pale and drawn. "Mark, I don't know what's going on. Something." Her voice cut off as the video feed froze. Emily's heart sank as she noticed a new figure in the background of Mark's feed, a tall, menacing silhouette with a hook for a hand, moving silently in the shadows. The feed went dark, and Emily's phone buzzed with a new message. "Sorry, Emily. We didn't mean for it to go this far. The real challenge was to see how long you could survive." Emily's blood ran cold as she realized the full extent of the betrayal. Her friends had set her up, turning her into a real-life victim of Hookman legend. Desperation clawed at her. She reached for the door handle, but it was locked. She looked around the car, searching for any way to escape. Everything was sealed tight. The tapping resumed, louder and more insistent, now coming from all directions. Then she heard it, a low, guttural sound as if something was scraping against the metal of her SUV. Emily's mind raced, trying to find a way out, but her options were dwindling. She could see the shadowy figure again, moving closer, the hook glinting ominously in the dim light. Her phone buzzed again, another message. "You've been a good sport, Emily. We're sorry for what's about to happen. Consider this your final call." The figure loomed larger, its presence filling the space around her. Emily's breathing became erratic as she frantically tried to find a way to escape. Her phone buzzed one last time, but she couldn't bring herself to look. The tapping stopped. The SUV's engine roared to life on its own, the headlights flickering wildly. Emily's heart pounded as the figure moved closer, the hook glinting in the harsh light. The windows of the car began to fog up, obscuring her view of the outside. In a final, desperate attempt, Emily grabbed the steering wheel and tried to drive away, but the SUV remained stationary. The figure was right outside now, the hook scraping against the window in a slow, deliberate motion. The last thing Emily saw was the shadowy figure leaning closer, the hook reaching for her. The darkness closed in around her, suffocating her, and then silent. Hours later, the SUV was found abandoned, the engine still running and the doors locked. Inside, the car was empty, no sign of Emily, no trace of her presence. The only thing left was the chilling, eerie echo of her final panicked scream, reverberating through the empty street. Emily's friends were left with the devastating realization that their cruel prank had gone horribly wrong, that they had pushed their friend too far into the clutches of a legend that was more than just a story. The tale of Emily became a new chapter in the urban legend, the Hookman, a grim reminder of how far some people would go for the sake of a twisted thrill. And as the years passed, the legend grew darker, the story more horrifying, but the truth remained. Sometimes the darkest legends have a way of becoming all too real.